Be the change you want to see in the world. These are the words of the great leader, Mohandas Gandhi. We've had the privilege today to hear from two of his great followers, Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. We are Team 1. I'm Arthur. This is Mark, Natasha, Mike, and Lydia. And today we're going to tell you a little bit about Gandhi and some of his leadership principles that he exuded.
So just a little background about Gandhi. He was born in 1869 and he died in 1948. He was born in Porbandar, which is the capital of a small principality in western India. He grew up in a relatively wealthy family. His father was similar to the governor of the city, and his mother was a deeply religious Hindu. And during his youth, he was very shy, soft-spoken, and did only mediocre in school. At age 13, he was married in an arranged marriage, and he had 4 children. At 18, he moved to London to become a lawyer, and even though he passed the bar, he chose not to practice law in London. At 23, he moved to South Africa, and he spent the next 20 years working there to better Indians' rights in South Africa.
So a little bit about his political background and what type of a leader he was. When Gandhi was born, India was under British rule. Gandhi was leader of Indian Nationalist Congress, and most of the Indian people called him Bapu, which means father. He studied law, and because the Indian people influenced him, he decided to focus on disability law. He was hired by a Muslim law firm in South Africa, where he moved there and practiced law, and that's where he lived most of his life. When he first arrived in South Africa, he was kicked off of the train for traveling on first class because of who he was and his Indian background, and that would change him and the rest of his life, and then he promised to help the Indian people, and that was kind of like the root of his movement. South Africa's impact on Gandhi inspired him, and when he and that's where the place he was, where he developed most of his thought, his beliefs, and political skills and lessons. And he was the first to initiate a nonviolent movement, which was the Sagara, I can't really pronounce that, but it's a political change through nonviolence. And he believed that to be a political leader, you must be morally pure. Inspired by a medical book he read, Gandhi embarked on a program of personal morale development and moral logic of truth. Later on, he was his leader, or his influence, and his kind of mentor, Gopal, showed him the destitute that India was under, because originally he was in support of the British rule, and he actually encouraged and motivated others to join the British Army. But after his mentor showed him what kind of rule India was really living under, he changed his mind and obviously decided to help the Indian people. And then he created a syllabus of national regeneration, which was a proposal to change India drastically, which included proposals like removing the untouchable class system, equality for women, and health education. And then to do that, he assembled a great team of men and women who were skilled and then developed the national network. In 1947, with the promotion of peace and nonviolent protest, Gandhi led India out from control of British, and he was assassinated in 1948.
So what kind of a leader can inspire an entire nation to resist British rule and ultimately gain its liberation from an empire? We've identified a couple of specific leadership traits that Gandhi had that he was able to bring to the people of India and lead them as an organization to resist the British Empire. First and foremost, he was a role model. We really like this quote from Gandhi that says, "Leaders, particularly founders like Gandhi, leave an almost indelible mark on the assumptions that are passed down from one generation to the next." In fact, organizations often come to mirror their founder's personality. And we see this in the Hindu culture and nonviolent resistance. He set the norm, and his followers took their cues from how Gandhi acted and how much he valued nonviolence resistance. Next slide. Also, we wanted to talk about his emotional intelligence. The fact that he was able to be self-aware, aware of his feelings at all time, and regulate his emotions. He wasn't high, wasn't low. He was very steady at all times, very able to restrain his emotions. His mission of civil liberties and the liberation of India was so motivating, he never gave up. So I think not only was he self-motivated, but he was able to motivate his followers in his mission also. Empathy for others is another emotional intelligence factor, and in that we see that even in such a disagreement, he was always able to put other people's arguments in context, and he was able to see both sides of an argument. Even though he was passionate about his, he was able to frame the debate that way. And interpersonal skills, even though he was resisting the British Empire and this whole beast of an organization, he still maintained relationships with British people. And it was really incredible that he was able to go through that using his social skills. So we wanted to look at the Myers-Briggs indicator, show where he was. And up here, you have the rule follower. Just to review, I am the law. Here you have the problem solvers, the guys that, I mean, they're really good at what they do, but they don't always care about other people's emotions. They don't care, you know, as long as their problem gets solved, they don't care. Down here, you have the pragmatist. He's the guy that works within the system to change the system. He's the guy that follows the rule-like structure. But over here we have Gandhi, who was a good communicator, the guy that was able to show his vision to others. And even though there was a potential for burnout in that category, Gandhi never realized that burnout because he was so focused on his mission.
Okay, Gandhi showed a lot of good leadership characteristics as well. He spent most of his life trying to build strong alliances. Now, one of the big notes of his life and his career is he tried to really get the Hindu and the Muslims to work together. I mean, there's a lot of big issues between India and Pakistan, and he tried his best to bridge that gap. Now, he was in a higher caste, but he still tried to be a man that was bringing India together. He tried to get the ordinary people. He tried to build the alliance between the castes. He also tried to get the government to also work together too to oppose the British. Now, he also set big goals. You know, he had a BHAG. His BHAG was the liberation of India from British rule. That was they had an iron fist on India for quite a while. So he wanted to get his people together, and that was a very big goal. Also, one of the goals he set was the salt march. There was a salt levy imposed on the Indian people by the British. So he got people together, and they marched 400 miles to the sea to make their own salt. So he organized this together. He set the big goal, and they marched 400 miles without any shoes on, some of them. So that's pretty tough stuff right there. So also he believed in honesty and integrity as his best policies. One of his quotes is, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." Now, a funny little story I read, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I'll tell you anyway, is that when he was in jail, when he's imprisoned, he had a visit from his wife, and the whole time she was there, he didn't speak to her. Why, you ask? Because those are the rules of the jail at the time. So he believed in integrity so much that he was going to follow the letter of the law. Now, also, he never wanted to act out of vengeance or spite. You know, obviously, he preached nonviolence. Now, during the Chauri Chara revolt of February 1922, there was a lot of violence going on. There was an uprising. Like, he basically helped to get people in that mode of revolution against the British. But he was very disappointed by the violence that broke out, so much so that he fasted for 3 weeks in order for, against the protest, the violence, to make it stop.
And here's a little video clip that just shows an example of his courage and his ability to stand up for what he believes in. This is from the movie Gandhi. That's a remake.
shepherd leading a brown Sammy.
Perhaps we should, doesn't the New Testament say if your enemy strikes you on the right cheek, offer him the left?
Well, I think perhaps the phrase was used metaphorically. I don't think that
I'm not so sure. I have thought about it a great deal, and I suspect he meant you must show courage. Be willing to take a blow, several blows, to show you will not strike back, nor will you be turned aside. And when you do that, it calls on something in human nature, something that makes his hatred for you decrease and his respect increase. I think Christ grasped that, and I have seen it work. Good morning.
Get off the pavement, you bloody coon. Yeah. Get off. Jaffa.
Alan, what you doing?
Nothing.
Come up when I can see you. I said, what you doing?
We were just trying to clean up the neighborhood a little.
You're late for work already. I thought you'd gone 10 minutes ago. Get on!
You'll find there's room for us all. That was lucky. I thought you were a man of God.
So some takeaways that we want to give you, Gandhi, in your life. We all learned about having high emotional intelligence. And leading teams, if you're privileged enough to take the class, you get to do lots of learning about yourself. But we took the LIFO, and it's really important to know not only your strengths like Gandhi did, but your weaknesses. Honesty, integrity, like the video showed, the courage to do the right thing and stand up for what you believe in. Reject violence and spite. Like we learned in the power demonstration, coercion is the least efficient source of power. Don't need to make enemies, lifelong enemies, and to always lead by example. And just to close it off, just want to say October 2nd is International Non-Violence Day, and that happens to be, that's because it's Gandhi's birthday. Thank you.